Discerning truth in a sea of lies. Live from Kalispell, Montana, it's Critical Disclosure Radio with your host, Jim White.
Okay, I'm indeed your host, James White. This is Critical Disclosure Radio. Here we're coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana on this 30th day of March, 2022. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the program. This is another one of those programs that can probably make your blood boil like it does mine when you start talking about the criminality that is really inherent in the Child Protective Services. It may be called something different in your town, DPHHS, DFS. Doesn't matter what they call it. Basically, it's really a child procurement, child trafficking, money laundering cabal and a ring there that goes on across the country. We've talked about this numerous times. We have another crime victim on the broadcast with us today, Sarah Stanley, who is currently actually on the run and hiding right now. And if you've been following the work that I've done for any period of time, this isn't the first person that I've had on the broadcast that has been in hiding. And we certainly, our thoughts and prayers go out to her and her plight. We've heard it sadly too many times before, but her story certainly is unique, and it's her story and personal to her, and we wanted to give her a chance to come on the show today and talk about that and get the word out. Sarah Stanley, thanks so much for joining us here today on Critical Disclosure Radio. Let me take you off mute.
Thank you.
You're good. Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
You're quite welcome. What we're going to do here is what I usually try to do is we're going to go ahead and give you the opportunity to have the floor, tell your story. I'm going to interrupt you as briefly as little as possible, only if there's something I think needs to get clarified or something perhaps that the people that you're listening may need to get clarified. Otherwise, we got a break coming up here in, 10, 11 minutes, and then another break at the bottom of the hour. And then other than that, I'm going to go ahead and just let you tell your story. So Sarah Stanley, start from the beginning.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to give the listeners kind of a background before this happened. So you've spoken with a mother previously, Tracy, and the title, I think, of her show was like Farm Girl. And I actually toiled on a farm for the first 21 years of my life, organic farm. And I mention that because I was raised with, very clear values and am like a good, clean Christian girl. And the courts really don't like that now that I've been in this, court system for going on 4 years. So before I gave birth to my son in 2018, and I guess before I met his father, my career was in health and wellness and holistic health. I have self-published a health book. I did a lot of coaching and really helping people, educating them on their food system, on all aspects of health, including, of course, like vaccines. So when I first met this individual who is now my ex, his name is Gary Lee Jennings. My very first in-person date with him, I said, if we continue this, here are my values. I will not, I'm not going to vaccinate. If, I believe like in home birth, I, want to homeschool, all those things, values that I'm sure this audience can relate to. So I met Mr. Jennings in November of 2016 and was instantly conned by him, unannounced to me at that point. He made, such statements as, you're the person I've been waiting for, you're just the most amazing person ever. And I believed him. I believed him that he wanted to have a family. He wanted to have children. He said, I have this beautiful house. This was outside of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, on the other side in Idaho. I have this beautiful home. We can have kids. You can homeschool them, all work. And so I kind of set the stage for this because most people think of abuse, as black and blue eyes, broken bones. And really abuse is coercion, it's power and control. abuse / domestic violence, which is really domestic abuse. And so I think as a country, people are still confused on what like abuse is. You know, if somebody hasn't been convicted of abuse, then they are suddenly like guilt-free and they can do no wrong. And that's just simply not true. I think I read a statistic the other day that it takes 50 to 100 times for a batterer, for an abuser to actually be held accountable to his crimes. And honestly, so many intimate partners are scared of telling the truth about what has happened to them for fear of retribution and retaliation, which is exactly what's happening to me.
Hold on, you realize too that all the abuse all the time isn't always battering. It's psychological. It's they demean the other person. They cut them down. They diminish them. I mean, this is these people that do this. It's not only, it doesn't even always have to go to physical. Just the psychological manipulation and is sometimes bad enough. Sorry, I just want to throw that in.
Yeah, it's all forms. Yeah, it's financial. Very controlling over the finances. Yeah, it's verbal, psychological. The manipulation is, I'm still in a fog from what he has said to me before he, finally ditched us. But yeah, abuse is it's widespread in terms of what it is. So and the one thing I want to say is when he conned me, they're master con artists. When he conned me into this relationship, and it moved extremely quickly, major red flag, did not notice at the time. He was like, oh yes, I'm a Christian, maybe my faith isn't as strong as yours, but I go to church. And I'm like, okay, great. Like he checks the boxes, right? Well, moved, left my life in Colorado, literally left my life, came out to Jackson Hole for him 2 months later. And we had a conversation and he was like, oh, actually, I'm not a Christian. I'm an atheist. And I was like, oh, okay, then we kind of have a real problem. And so he conned me he's like, well, you don't love me because I'm an atheist. And I'm like, well, yes, I love you. So the manipulation and that verbal psychological abuse started immediately. He had told me a couple months previous, like on that first date, November 2016, that he had a divorce. It was also a woman from Colorado. He brought her out to the same area in Jackson Hole, and she had to go back to Colorado. I guess he was telling me, you might want to run now. I just took it as, yeah, we all make mistakes. It didn't work out. We'll move on. That was really not the case. He was actually married when he was with me, and he a few months into our relationship. So this was the beginning of 2017. I did end up getting pregnant April of 2017, and the following month we were climbing Mount Shasta in California, which is a 14,000 foot glacier mountain. And I started having a miscarriage on that climb. I was 8 weeks pregnant. I said, I'm bleeding. And he forced me to continue that climb. We summited and have a lot of trauma over that still. Lost that pregnancy. And that was kind of... things were pretty bad. During that same trip, he became verbally irate. He pushed me out of the car and continued on in the car driving. He eventually did come back and get me, but he literally left me in the middle of nowhere. So this is just a few months into our relationship. I'm still recovering from the miscarriage, early July of 2017. And he forced sex on me again, not out of consent. Beginning of August 2017, I was really sick, and I had done a long run the previous weekend, and I was like, maybe I had some mountain water, and I was like, maybe I have a parasite. Well, it turns out I was pregnant. And that was ultimately my beautiful, precious son, River, who was born 40 weeks later on April 12th, 2018. And, during those months of pregnancy, I suffered a lot of abuse. He would leave me for weeks on end, just go do whatever he wanted to do. He is the most selfish person I've ever met, leaving me really just to fend for myself. No support, financial or whatever. And the psychological abuse he was really good at that. And it's kind of like a frog in a pan of boiling water. It just slowly turns up over time, and the victim doesn't even know they're dead until they're dead. So a month before I gave birth, he just took off for a 2-week music festival in the Dominican Republic. I'm 36 weeks pregnant, mind you, which I could give birth at any moment in time. And then he was immediately going to go from the Dominican Republic to backcountry Canada to go on his second heli ski trip of the season. He just did one in January for a few weeks. And, I'm still pregnant. Well, that trip didn't happen because he had business partners that he was defrauding. And he told them that he was just going to be gone for a few days. And when his business partners realized that he was going to be gone for over a full month, they said, "You come back right now or else we're going to have some serious problems." And so he came back. Anyway, just another little example of, him ditching me when I'm pregnant. No regards for my health or well-being. Had the baby. And as soon as River was born, he just checked out completely. He did not want to be tied down, is what he'd call it, tied down at home with a baby, with a mother who is, breastfeeding around the clock. And I'm a nurturing type of person. And he could not stand that. He could not be relegated to helping a little 6-pound baby who needs everything done for them. So we did not see him. Around the same time, it was probably a month, and I was such in a postpartum fog haze, I didn't even realize what was going on. But he attempted, and I say attempted because I don't have full proof that it has been taken out, but he has attempted to take out a very large life insurance policy on me and the baby. During the same time, he also is sending me like text messages about him ending his life. Life is so horrible. He doesn't know how he's going to make it. And, having a baby should be like the happiest time of your life. And it was just awful. And we didn't see him. He's trying to take out his life insurance policy. We had the blood work done. He has forged my signature on other legal documents. So that's why I'm still very, very cautious with his other behaviors of what policy is on my head.
Sir, we got to take a quick commercial break here. And
okay.
Back in a couple of minutes. And then we get back on the other side. We will continue this story. Sounds like a real peach of a guy. We'll be back after these brief messages here on Critical Disclosure Radio, criticaldisclosure.com, criticaldisclosure.com. Today's broadcast is sponsored by Heaven's Harvest Emergency Survival Food. Folks, as you can probably tell from watching the news, there's about to be a real big food shortage in this country. The trucker strike all across the world, especially here in the United States and Canada, is going to stop the food from flowing in here. There's no better time than right now to plant a garden for this spring. Spring is just around the corner, and you can save on shipping over at heavensharvest.com by going to heavensharvest.com and typing in Jim at checkout. Now, all you need to do is buy an heirloom seed vegetable kit or any food bucket and type in Jim at checkout, and you'll receive free shipping. Folks, don't wait. There's not much time left before the food supply is literally going to be shut down. We see this on the news every day. It's time to take your food security in your own hands. Do that by going to heavensharvest.com, picking up an heirloom vegetable seed kit, type in Jim at checkout. heavensharvest.com.
PatriotPrepared.com carries the leading brands of storable food from Legacy and Heaven's Harvest. Patriot Prepared. Our name says it all. We're dedicated to empowering you to be self-reliant and confident in any circumstance. Whether you want to be prepared in the event of an emergency or you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, PatriotPrepared.com has prepackaged meals and kits for your entire family. Legacy, Heaven's Harvest are known for high-quality, great-tasting, GMO-free, nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. Simple to prepare, easy to store, gluten-free and organic high-quality nutrition options with a 25-year shelf life. You can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. So go to PatriotPrepared.com right now to pick up your supply of high-quality storable food for your family, because it makes good sense to be prepared. That's PatriotPrepared.com.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the broadcast. And not only is food security important, but also financial security is important as well. You can lock that in. You can lock the price in right now of your money, just losing value, by going to 7kmetals.com/Carla J, 7kmetals.com/Carla J. And you can do a program where you just every month it's taken out and you get a coin of your choice, and there's a bunch of different things that you can do over there at 7K Metals. Check it out over at 7kmetals.com/Carla J. You can email Carla at carladjohnson54@gmail.com, or you can call her at 406-855-2761. It's 406-855-2761, 7K Metals/Carla J. Okay, thanks, folks, for hanging on after the break. I am joined by Sarah Stanley, who is currently on the run from the Idaho Family Services, and I'm not sure what they're called there in Idaho. But we want to give a shout out to Casey Whalen for introducing us to Sarah. I think, Sarah, you're probably familiar with the baby Cyrus case that just wrapped up here. Well, of course, now I'm hearing that it's not wrapped up. I'm hearing now that maybe they want to have the baby back again. So this is just a criminal child trafficking, money laundering syndicate. I don't know how to put any other way to put it. And as I've said before on this broadcast, I've made that statement probably 25 times. I have only received evidence across my desk that proves what I just said to be a fact. Nothing that I've seen has been in opposition to that statement, that they're a child trafficking, money laundering criminal cabal. Your story, you're on the run right now. So catch us up to finish up what you're saying, and why are you on the run? Let us know. I mean, that is not many people do that. I mean, this is very unusual. Most people just either give in or they don't pay attention, and they show up at school and take their child. And I mean, they just do all kinds of crazy things. You are not going to let that happen, Sarah. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you and finish up where we're at, and then let us know how you got where you're at today, being on the run from Child Family Services. And I think I spelled it wrong on the video here, but anyway, go ahead. Over to you. Let me take you off mute. I got to remember to do that. Sorry about that. Did you hit it? Did you not? Did you get it off mute?
Oh,
there you go.
Okay,
go ahead,
we're good.
Sarah.
Yeah, I would say that I am, maybe instead of on the run, I am protecting me and my son from these criminals as the God-given right that I have as his biological mother and protector. I'm his mama bear, and I won't let anything happen to him by the grace of God. And so I have been blessed with, resources to keep us safe from this system that is currently hunting me down, me and my son. Trying to speed up this story, it's hard to cram in 5 years and a few minutes, but over the course of the summer of 2017, the violence escalated. On a rare occasion, he was holding my son. I think River was 4 months old. He got irate that he could never climb mountains again. He tore an art piece off the wall and hurled it into the garage. Thankfully, it did not hit me, did not injure my son, but still he was holding the baby, a 4-month-old baby infant, with his fit of rage. Another time, I think that was a week later, he was verbally berating me, and I removed myself from the situation. It was awful, just awful. and said, I'm going to go upstairs to the master bedroom. I'm going to breastfeed. I will be out in 20 minutes. He got so angry, he got tools and started unscrewing the lock on our master bedroom door. Became violent with me, pulled the door shut, and the locking mechanism, he didn't take the whole thing out. And he imprisoned me and my 4-month-old baby in the master bedroom with no way to escape. I did have my cell phone. I should have called the police. Again, as a kind person, I gave him yet another chance to be like, hey, I sent him a text. I have this text message and I said, hey, come back and unlock me right now or else I'm calling the police. So 2 months later, I found some more very disturbing text messages on his phone. He is cheating on me. There are just some really disturbing text messages about ending my life. And finally, November 2018, 7-month-old baby, he just sent me a text one day and said, I'm on a plane. I'm not telling you where I'm going. Good luck. And we had a joint counseling appointment that day. He also sent her a text, and her name was Heather, and Heather texted me and she was like, I'm so sorry. You do not deserve this. And so we talked, and in that same time period, he drained our joint checking account and then closed it. Took their car away that he had given me because he already repossessed my car because he didn't want to make payments on that for me. Changed the locks on our house and took me to court all within a matter of days. And then got a live-in girlfriend, sold my belongings on Facebook, and they hightailed it to Seattle. So we're in the beginning of 2019. He saw, and that same month that he was doing all that stuff, he was gallivanting around the country. He went to like 4 music concerts. He went pack rafting over Christmas, the Grand Canyon.
So he's trying to crush. So he's trying to crush you financially and ruin your life, and you're still taking care of his child during this whole time. Correct? That he is abusing you. You're caring for his child. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah. He left me for up to 3 weeks without any resources for money when we were still together. I had no access to money to buy food. I was literally foraging around in my pantry to just find scraps. It was very hard to breastfeed when I wasn't able to eat. His level of abuse is pretty dangerous. So yeah, after he just ditched me, he got an attorney, and here I am with no resources. I was the stay-at-home mother caring for his son. I was managing our Airbnb. We had 2 spare bedrooms in our house, and so I was managing that. Didn't get compensated for that. I was making home-cooked organic meals for him. I was, a good wife. I was a good wife, good mother to his child. He saw the baby February of 2019 and did not see the baby again until September 2020. That first year of 2019, we had very scant contact with him by his choosing. And he is gallivanting around the country, Canada, multiple girlfriends, just very promiscuous behavior.
Obviously, he has some kind of, or some sort of substantial resources to be able to travel around the country and do what he's doing. He's probably got resources to do that, which is another check mark against you, because he can hire the best attorneys. Is that accurate?
That's exactly what's happened to me. So in 2019, which is funny because I know he has money because he's in real estate in Seattle. So we can see his listings, we can see what he's doing, but he was claiming, that he's so broke, he doesn't have this money, he can't pay child support. And remember, he's the petitioner in this court case. He's the one who took me to court for child support and custody. There was no divorce in the matter. And when he filed his petition in December 2018, he wanted his child support to be $4. And at that point, he was making $100,000 a year. And in that initial petition, he said, Sarah has been the primary caregiver for the baby. That's the way it should be. He just wants visitation. Well, he's very manipulative. He didn't want to pay child support. And so I didn't care really about the money. I just wanted my son and me to be safe. And so October 2019, 6 days before that trial, we came into a stipulation together And he agreed to this. This was signed by the judge, but it wasn't, the order wasn't made by the judge. And so what Mr. Jennings agreed to with me was that he would get approximately 10 hours of visitation over a 4-day period, partially supervised, and his child support would be $550 a month. The previous 10 months was a temporary order of child support, about $1,000 a month, if so, for frame of reference. And he still refused to pay a penny of that. Come March 2020, he was served by Washington State to enforce child support. And what did he do? Oh, he filed for sole custody. And he also filed to try to move the case to a different state. This is also when COVID, say it loosely, started. So not only am I dealing with COVID nonsense, I'm also now dealing with I'm dealing with court all over again. When we had it, he still didn't pay child support. He still didn't see the son. Just awful. So went through that process for a few months. He tried to get the case moved to Arizona, where I was doing seasonal work. I started a bakery out of my home kitchen. The farmer's market at Jackson Hole was only 3 months a year. I went to Arizona to do the farmer's market down there as honorable employment, since I'm the sole provider for me and my son. So I'm trying to make this work, and he's literally just making my life absolutely hell. That is not a good father. A good father doesn't do that to the mother of their child or their child. So Idaho kept the case, and there's so many details I want to share and I can't, but he hired a third aggressive attorney at that point. Her name is Laurie Bard Gaffney, out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. Everybody needs to bar grieve this woman. She is a criminal. What she has done to me and my child is absolutely hideous, just horrible. And so he hired her. She's like $350 an hour. And again, I'm making minimum wage. I'm, doing pet house sitting, childcare with my, so I do nanny work with my child in tow, and bakery. I'm literally having 3 jobs while I'm caring for my son 24/7. And I wanted jobs that I could raise my son. I don't believe the government should raise him, and I don't believe somebody else should raise him. It's my responsibility. It's my honor to raise my son. And so that's why I had these jobs where I could, work from home or work in somebody else's house where I could raise my son. So kind of fast forward through 2020, she deposed me, just vicious deposition. Mr. Jennings, the abuser, he sat in on the Zoom deposition and turned his camera off. So very voyeuristic of like, I'm just going to watch her, terrorize you for hours on end, and you can't see my face. Totally uncalled for. And so went through 2021, just awful court things. He began paying child support based on his attorney telling him to, and then he also began seeing my son. He hadn't seen the son for 2 years. He abandoned us for 2 years. And Idaho statute is 1 year abandonment. You get your rights terminated. And I set that stage for what's coming next. And August 2021, we had a 3-day trial. I was all on my own, and I showed up in person to that trial, litigated the best I could, cross-examined a custody evaluator that he paid $5,000 to get a favorable report that he should have sole custody evaluator, which is just a licensed counselor, never interviewed me, just had a video interview with the abuser, and said, oh yeah, he should totally have sole custody. And at the trial, I said, did you know there's a final order in this matter? Oh, well, no, I didn't. Who has been raising this son for over 3 years? Well, I assume you, but I didn't talk to you. Well, then why didn't you talk to me? Why are you ripping a 3-year-old from his primary care attachment figure since birth to go to Seattle? They have no evidence. They have no reason to. It was just
hold that thought. We got a network break coming up here, and we come back. It'll be a 3-minute break. Come back in the other side. We'll pick it back up. Folks, if you want to support this broadcast, go to criticaldisclosure.com and click on the big red donate button there. As I continue to move forward and do family court and child protective services reports, I need your help. And you can do that by going to criticaldisclosure.com and clicking on the donate button. We'll be back on the other side with Sarah Stanley, who is a crime victim from the Idaho Family Services. And stick around. We'll be back after these brief messages here on Critical Disclosure Radio. Okay, folks, thanks for hanging out for the break. I'm your host, James White. This is Critical Disclosure Radio, criticaldisclosure.com. That's criticaldisclosure.com. We broadcast each weekday, 10 to 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on a variety of different networks. See if I can remember them all. Rumble, Podbean, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Let's see, Foxhole and Twitch, and, of course, Brighteon Radio. That's brighteonradio.com. We are joined after the break again by Sarah Stanley, who is, and I put on the run here, but you corrected me, Sarah. You're not really necessarily on the run. You are, you protected your child, which who can blame you? I know that's what you're going to be. You're going to be portrayed as being on the run and a fugitive. But you know, if when it comes down to protecting my children, I can tell you, I do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't even imagine I'd do now if I came to that situation. So we appreciate you being here on the broadcast. I know we're going to be joined by a associate of yours here coming up in about 5 or 6 minutes. So go ahead and if you want to pick back up where you left off and go ahead and finish out until your friend comes on the line, go right ahead, Sarah Stanley.
Yeah, thank you. Another part back to the August 2021 trial. I cross-examined, but his attorney asked Mr. Jennings, and you acknowledge that to remove River from Sarah's full-time 24/7 care, it will cause him psychological trauma. And Mr. Jennings said, yes, I acknowledge it will cause my son psychological trauma, but I've looked up play therapy. If a father is willing to psychologically traumatize his child, why wouldn't the judge, who is sitting right 2 feet away from him, stop the trial and immediately say, this is not a good father who is willing to traumatize his child for life, and just end it right there? No, they continued the torture. It was 3 days of torture. That's what it was. I have ADA accommodations, American with Disabilities Act accommodations. I held my own. I was strong. I have been a client of 5 domestic violence centers through this whole ordeal. 5 different centers have taken me on as a client. And domestic violence centers are traditionally severely underfunded. So just to give you an idea, that 5 have had to help me. And they said they would not have a client do what I did. I was very brave to do a 3-day trial up against a very aggressive attorney. 5 weeks post-trial, the judge came to us and said, oh, by the way, the trial recording equipment malfunctioned.
Really? No kidding.
No kidding. I wonder why. And I should also say during that trial, Mr. Jennings impeached himself. Well, the judge impeached him, but his perjury is so blatant. He perjured himself over and over and over again. The judge impeached him twice. I have black and white evidence as long as the day is long. And I said, I moved to strike his entire testimony. He is lying about everything. How can you he's not a credible witness? And the judge was like, no, we're just going to continue on. So this magical, malfunction recording equipment, and immediately the opposing counsel said, oh, we need temporary orders. And I said, no, we don't. We have a final order. It's 2 years at this point. So a couple of weeks later, on October 13th, the judge made a new temporary order going back on what the order that he signed, the final order from 2 years ago, which is he went rogue. And right before he made this temporary order, he said, Mr. Jennings sure has spent a lot of money on this case. And then he followed that up by saying, I don't trust Miss Stanley to give him more time. Let's make a temporary order. And if she doesn't comply, I'm going to flip custody on her. So the following week, under threat, force, and duress, I complied with that order, and the temporary order the new temporary order was 160 hours a month. It went from 10 hours to 160 hours. The percentage is off the charts. No contact with me. Literally, this child has been with me almost every single hour since birth, including every night. And he's literally just ripped from me. And if I don't comply, they're going to take him from me permanently. Horrendous.
So what's your thoughts about the judge being so favorable to the father? Have you known anything about this judge? Is this if you had a chance to look into it, is this commonplace? Because, a lot of times they give sadly, the worst parent ends up getting the child. And I don't know why, of course I do know why, but that seems to happen. Is that the same thing in this case?
I have, I don't know. I'm still digging into that a little bit. I have done some public records requests for his emails, for the judge's emails on my case. He is emailing other people, such as the Idaho State Police and the Attorney General, saying, I am dealing with a difficult litigant. Please check her out. And he gives my name and he gives my protected address. Very, very suspicious. I have a bunch of theories. It comes down to money. I'm sure he's being bribed behind the scenes for him to say that. Is
this a judge, a magistrate? This is a judge, a magistrate? Is it a judge?
It's a magistrate.
It's a magistrate?
A magistrate elected official.
Okay.
Yep. So I complied with that October 2021 visit. My son comes back to me. He doesn't even know my name as mommy. He comes back with a rash on his face. He says he slept on the floor. He was like, Mama, I missed you. I didn't think you were coming back. He wore the same clothes for 4 days. He had no contact, literally just no contact with me. There was no safety precautions put in place, like nothing. And I also say I have attempted to get multiple protective orders. This is how you know it's bad. The protective orders, I can get a protective order. It covers me, but not my child. If you know that this person is dangerous to an adult who doesn't have to be forced into visitation, shouldn't you protect the little boy or the child who is going to be in close proximity? He can't defend himself. That's why this system is just, it's just abysmal. Following month, November, set up a visit again. I show up. I have 2 witnesses. He doesn't show up. The following week, Thanksgiving Eve, his attorney, she's very aggressive since she files multiple documents all the time. She's filed probably over 1,000 documents on me. And she says I'm in contempt because I didn't comply with the order. And I'm like, excuse me, I have witnesses. I was there. I have 2, plus the domestic violence center. That's where we always met for this visitation. So they always try to get me in contempt. Literally, if I didn't, dot my I and cross my T, I was suddenly in contempt of court. So there was no visit in November because he no-showed, but they used that against me. December, there was a writ of assistance attempted on me. They tried to take my child away by force to enter any resident that I was at and to remove the child from my care and custody into the care and custody of the abuser who lives in Seattle. And this is where CPS comes in. Well, the father doesn't even live in the same freaking state. Where is the child going to? He would go into foster care because the father doesn't live there.
So let me ask you this question. Let me pause for a second. The abuser, is he connected? Does he have family members that are part of the system? Does he have a brother who works for the police department? I mean, is there something going on? Because in the past, when we've had these similar cases, if you listen to Tracy's case, I think you said Tracy here in Montana, that was the situation in her case, is her abuser had connections, in law enforcement, I think in military and other areas. Is that similar? It sounds like your abuser's a bit of a jet setter. Does he kind of operate in those circles? Do you know?
He may. I mean, he grew up on the East Coast. I know, he basically is run out from areas. He doesn't have many friends. I think his attorney is the one who has a lot of vested interest in this. I think she's Lori Bard Gaffney. I think she's the one who's doing a lot of this inside job type stuff. But there's no family in Idaho that he has, that I'm aware of. So it's very peculiar. So the beginning of this year, January, Magistrate Jason D. Walker recused himself from the case after being on the case for 3 years. Another judge got on the case. He also recused himself, David M. Hunt, also a magistrate from a different county. And then we got a third judge. And we had, when a mistrial was declared, we had a new trial put on the schedule, and that was for the end of January. That was vacated. February 9th is when we had another 3.5-hour hearing. Now, I have invisible disabilities such as, PTSD, and they're covered in severe trauma from not only this court system, but from the attorney, from, the abuser, from everybody. There's so many players, the custody evaluator. And this judge made me sit through force, threat, coercion, all of the above, to sit through a Zoom 3.5-hour hearing. And I said, I'm having a panic attack. And he was like, oh, well, let's just take a 5-minute break and we'll come back. And I was like, I can't continue. And he forced me to continue anyway. He's like, I'm going to reinforce the temporary order. And so the following week, February 17th, key point, on February 9th, I brought up the issue of jurisdiction. And I have learned, slowly but surely about law over this whole process. And I said, this court doesn't have jurisdiction, and outlaid my points. And at the beginning of the onset of that hearing, he said, I'll take that matter under advisement. Now, he should have stopped everything. You cannot pass go without jurisdiction. But instead, he continued on for another 3 hours. The following week,
they're not real court. They're not real courts. That's why.
Exactly.
They're not courts of records.
Yeah.
They're service corporations. The whole entire thing's a fraud. The whole entire thing's a scam. It's all one big scam, and we're all being conned by this whole entire system. They have no authority over us. They don't. But we think they do, and the reason that they continue to is because we allow them to, because we don't stop them. Anyway, sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm where I'm at today, is that I'm standing up for my rights, and I feel like I am Moses parting the Red Sea, and I have mothers and children behind me, and I'm like blazing this path of like, no, you are not going to bully and abuse one more mother and child. You're not just going to say, if you don't obey, we're going to take your child away. And so that's what I'm doing. I am standing up. Kind of like Charlie Kirk and Scott Dillon with the Babylon Bee. You know, they posted some tweets, and, you know, Twitter's like, well, you have to delete them. And they're like, no, we're not going to delete them. We're not going to, you know, bow down to you. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not bowing down to this totalitarian government. It's abuse. I'm done being abused. I'm done being abused. And so
yeah, I hear you.
Said,
well put. if everybody had that same mindset, this whole thing would go away. The only reason that they're allowed to continue to operate and victimize us is because we let them. That's why, because we let them. Again, folks, these are service corporations. Any entity that's incorporated has no more rights over you than any other entity that's incorporated. Like the McDonald's manager can't pull you over or take your children away or rule over you because they're incorporated. This is Supreme Court ruling, 1946. Look it up. Anyway, go right ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, you can look up their Dun and Bradstreet numbers. You know,
they're corporations.
Crazy.
They're service corporations. Yeah. They're corporations. They don't have authority.
They're taking money, and this is the thing. They're trafficking children, and this is, you know, Diego's like, I like this definition. I wrote it down, but it's taking a child by force, putting him into the hands of other people for profit. And if you look up my case number on Treasury.gov, my child has a $50,000 price tag for his head. It's disgusting.
That's low. So, yes. That's low. I've seen in the millions. It's been the millions. That's low for now. Go ahead.
So anyway, February 9th, we had this hearing. Jurisdiction is going to be under advisement. February 17th comes around where the next visit's supposed to happen. I had two friends, John and Lewis. I said, I want you guys with me. They're very stand-up individuals. They will keep me and my son safe during the exchange. It was supposed to be at 8 a.m. And a little before 8 a.m., I texted John and I said, hey, you know, River is still sleeping. We will be there momentarily. John relays that I cannot speak to my ex. We do not communicate for my safety. And I said, you know, let Mr. Jennings know that we will be there momentarily. Mr. Jennings flies off the handle. He becomes retaliative and says, I'm just going to call my attorney. We're going to file something. And he just storms off. I show up to the exchange location about 30 minutes later with the child still willing to comply, and he wasn't there. Same day, they file an ex parte order, which is so unlawful and so illegal. It violates all due process, and they filed to give him sole custody based on lies. They said that I was not at the exchange location, but I was. I have two witnesses to corroborate that. And they gave him sole physical custody, literally stripped me of like my parental rights on paper, and he can take the child back to Seattle. And at that point I said, nope, this is not happening. I'm done. I will keep myself and my son safe. So that's what we did on that weekend. And February 24th, we had another court hearing. And I'm running out of time, but the attorney, this is two things she said at this court hearing. Sarah will not bend her knee. Second quote, she said, we have to manhunt Sarah down. And when she said that, I realized we are no longer dealing with a child custody issue. We are dealing with so much.
You're dealing with an organized crime organization. It's an organized crime unit is what they are. They're an organized crime cabal. Maybe. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they continued this order, and then they continue this ex parte order. They closed the courtroom, which again is another unlawful thing. And then they magically, COVID just disappeared because they're like, oh, we want you to appear in person in 4 days at the courthouse with your child. does that suit you, Miss Stanley? I said, no, it does not suit me. He asked me 3 times and I said, no, it does not suit me. And Miss Gaffney, the attorney, said, then I moved to file default judgment. If she doesn't show up, then I'm going to get default judgment. And now there's default judgment. The ex suddenly has this bogus criminal, sole custody. And, they're charging me with kidnapping my son. They haven't even given me any due process. This is all based off a default judgment. I mean, it's insane. And this is, it ties in with CPS again, because what happens to this child? The father is nowhere near us. He's out. Who knows where he is? He's already been to Mexico in the last couple of weeks. And so that's kind of, fast forward to where we are today. This system is so bad. A criminal doesn't even begin to describe it. It's genocide. It's, they're separating families. There's not one shred of evidence why this child should be removed from my care based on a modification. This is not a final order. And this judge has closed the case. So I don't know if Adam's in the queue, but what he has to share is.
I don't see him. I don't see him there. Okay. No, I don't see him. It hasn't flashed on the screen that he's arrived.
All right. So, yeah, they have now, hired basically additional bounty hunters, hired hitmen to, search me. They're exploiting me and my child's face all over our hometown, as well as different states, saying, I have unlawful custody. I have kidnapped my son. He needs to come home to Seattle. He's never been in your home. He's never been in Seattle. He doesn't even know who he is. He's only in 4 years. My son will, turn 4 in 12 days. He's only seen the abuser a few times. He's only as far as days, he's only been with him 3 days in 4 years. And to remove the parental mother, we have a very healthy primary attachment figure, is detrimental to this child's life. And yet these courts do not care. They want to continue the torture of good, loving mothers and their children. It is just criminal. We need to round up all these criminals and do citizens arrest or something, because we've got to stop this. And that's why I kind of feel like, I do have, good people who are helping me stay safe and protected, due to God's grace. And we need to protect thousands of other children, precious children of God, and their mothers. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that. But this is a serious issue that really, it's child trafficking on steroids.
Oh boy, it's child trafficking, right? And I've said before on the show, here's what would solve everything. And, this is a call out. If men would just be men, and men, you're supposed to protect women and children and those that are the weaker of society and less fortunate. You're supposed to protect them. That's your role. If men would just stand up, Sarah, and be men just for 3 days. If we could just have men come back for 3 days, we could have all this go away, because men would not stand for the type of crimes that are committed against mothers and children and families. Men shouldn't stand for that. I'm doing what I can with this broadcast and the many broadcasts I've done to try to expose, what's going on. But what can one man do, or a handful of people that do this? This is very difficult work to do. This is very mentally taxing. This is it's tough stuff, and not a lot of people do it. More men need to stand up. That's what it's going to take, I think, in some sense, to get this country back. Sarah, we've only got about 3 minutes left. I'll go ahead and give it back over to you.
No, I totally agree. And yeah, and that's what, I keep saying, what good father does this to his children, that he wants to remove the mother from his child's life permanently? I don't even get a phone call with my child my child would be in a psych ward in a heartbeat. I've been with this child since birth. So it's disturbing that we have these types of males running rampant in our society, that they're dragging good, loving mothers to court, beating them over their head financially, verbally, whatever which way. Their weapons are money, attorneys, custody evaluators, guardian ad litem, social care workers. They beat mothers to death, until some mothers just are like, what, fine, take the children. I can't deal with this anymore. Your trauma is too much for me to even live my life. Just go take them. we have a serious male problem. We don't have true males left anymore. Well, they're like, that was too broad of a statement. We have very few honest males left in our society.
Agreed.
And it's sad. Just even on terms of, national security, who's going to secure our country if we don't have, honest, upright, moral men? This is a wide-stemmed, problem, but it's really prevalent in my perspective in this bogus, fake, court system. They don't have the authority to tell another person what to do. And
you're not their property. You're not their property.
I'm not their exactly.
You're not their property. No, did you sign any paperwork? Yeah. No,
exactly. I don't have a contract with them.
No, you don't have a contract with them. You're not their property. That's it, folks. It's a big scam. It sounds like you're actually on the right target there, Sarah. You're studying the right stuff. We're not their property. These people are service corporations. They have no authority over us. They really don't actually have any authority over the man and woman that you are. But that's a whole nother broadcast, and I've done several of them. Sarah, we're just running out of time here. We do appreciate you coming on. Folks, if you want to get Sarah on your broadcast, if you're listening to this, and I'm sure you want to get the word out there, just reach out to me. Under the video is my email address. You can reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch with Sarah, unless you have an email address you want to give out real quick, Sarah, for people to contact you, to have you on their broadcast. It's up to you. If not, you can just reach out to me. Anything you want to say before we go? We got about 10 seconds. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and fight for our children. We need you.
Right on. Well put. Folks, we're just time here. You can check out what we got going on at criticaldisclosure.com, criticaldisclosure.com. And if you want to support this broadcast and my work as I go back towards CPS, against CPS, just hit the donate button and you can donate there. Appreciate you looking in today. We want to thank our guest, Sarah Stanley. Till next time, this is James White for Critical Disclosure Radio, saying bye now.